How you doing, guys? Today I'm going to take the carburetor apart on my 1955 Wheel Horse Senior. I've been looking around for a carburetor for it because this one here, for whatever reason, I just can't get it to idle or run smooth at a low RPM. It's just a disaster. But looking online for carburetors, number one, there isn't that many carburetors out there for this, and I'll show you the numbers on this carburetor in 1 second. And two, the ones that I do see for sale are in worse shape than this one. So I don't understand how I can't get this particular carburetor to work or just get fine-tuned. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this. Let's see if we can do it, because I mean, this will be the third time I've taken this carburetor apart. So, you know, 3 times is a charm. So what do we have? This is a 1955 AEN Wisconsin engine, and we have the original style carburetor for this engine, which is a cast iron Zenith unit. Now the numbers that are on this carburetor are exactly the same numbers as the original carburetor off of this engine. Now, the one I'm holding in my hand right now is the original carburetor. You've seen this on the channel before. It is a complete rusted disaster. I don't know if we can actually see. I'll get the light. Yeah, see if we can get this thing to, there you go. Get that. If you look down in there, look, you can see the rust. I mean, this thing is just rusted to you-know-who. I'm just getting my glasses so I can read the numbers on the carburetor, because when you get old, you can't read. There they are. It's L48AD 11595. And if we come over to the carburetor that we have here, there you go. L48AD 11595. So this is the correct style carburetor for this engine. To get it off the engine, we've got to do a couple things. We've got to undo the bolt here. That's going to get the elbow off. We've got to undo the breather tube. We've got to take this little nut off, or bolt, I should say, here. And that gets the whole air cleaner assembly out of the way. I do not have any oil in this, so there's really no need to take this off. Next, we got to get the fuel line off, which is just this little compression fitting. That little rod right there, that's the throttle and the governor adjustment. It's just held on by a little hitch pin right there. We'll take that little hitch pin off. And then obviously it's the 2 bolts right here holding it to the intake manifold. I'm going to get all that stuff done, and the next thing we'll see is this carburetor up on the workbench. I got the air cleaner assembly off. I ended up dropping it on the floor over there. Nothing happened, thankfully, but I was like, really, dude? But a couple of things I wanted to show you real quick is the breather tube that vents the valve spring area right there behind that plate. There's no oil in there, so that's on. That makes me feel great, because I know it's not pushing oil or too much oil into that area. There's right now currently no fuel in the throat of the carburetor, but we know that not to be good. This thing, the choke works fine. What I was about to say was, we know it's dry now, but we know that it does pour fuel or dump fuel into this because it leaked out everywhere. You can see the witness mark where the fuel has been running. So that preliminarily looks good. Next up, just going to take the compression fitting off, and then these 2 1/2-inch bolts have to come off, so that way we can drop the carburetor itself off the engine. I have the Zenith carburetor up here on the workbench. I mean, everything looks fine. I mean, if we tip it like this and open up the throttle, and you shine down in the inside of this one, it's absolutely mint clean. I mean, I really don't see any issues whatsoever. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take off the governor arm here. It's super. This is probably the easiest governor setup of any motor from any manufacturer. And we'll go over that when we reinstall the carburetor to the engine. But I have, sometimes, you know, you mess around with like on a Kohler or even a Clinton that has the little arm, a little rod that sticks out, and you put the arm. pinches on. You know, just even a Briggs & Stratton, the slightest little off, it either doesn't rev or revs way too much. The Wisconsin is absolutely the opposite of that. I'm going to go ahead and turn my idle mixture screw all the way in, taking note of how many turns it is, and I'll write that down. The main jet, I'm just going to take a 1/2-inch wrench, take that out. I'm going to leave it right where it is. And then we'll take these, there's 4 of these little screws. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 3, 4 on the other side, right there, 1 there, and then 1 over here somewhere. We'll take that and separate the top from the bowl section. It's a couple weeks later, literally, and I may have found the issue with my carburetor, and maybe an issue that you might have in the future with your carburetor. One of the things, as I said multiple times, is that this thing just won't idle. Off of idle and high speed runs pretty darn good. Just needed some adjustment. So I called in a friend, actually the gentleman who machined that gearbox for me, and I asked him, I said, hey, I got a question for you. I understand that's the main jet. I understand that's the air bleed. But what is this thing right there? I said, this just, they don't put passages in carburetors just to put passages into carburetors. And then, and additionally, the gasket, it actually seals that little hole. And he had come back and said, hey, that is the idle well. I think he called it an idle well or an idle passage, something to that effect, where fuel will flow up into this area and then go through the idle jet. So I said, all right, when I shine a flashlight down the main jet, I get light here at the bottom of the bowl. I get light showing through in the vent, and I get light obviously through the main jet area, but I don't get any light through here. When I looked at the schematic of the carburetor, if we take a look real quick, it says idle fuel pickup passage. There it is right there. It does have like a little opening that goes down into the main jet passage area, feeds up to the idle jet, and then out the nozzle. We'll talk about the nozzle in a minute. This is the main jet passage right here. So I'm like, all right, so there's that thing's got to be clogged. So I took a flashlight, which I'll show you in a second, shined it in, and then there was nothing coming through this hole. I could see light through here, light through there, obviously light through the bottom, but nothing through this area. So I was like, okay, so there must be must be plugged. And it was. So if I take the flashlight and turn that on and we shine it here, we can see we have light through the base of the bowl. I'll go real quick over here. We got light showing very nicely through the, let's just do that. There we go. Through the main jet. We have light showing through the vent. And as you can see, we now have light coming up through the idle well or the idle fuel passage. That was most likely in the 95 to 97% range that was the issue, because the idle screw, which is right here, had absolutely nothing. It did nothing. It did nothing. I could close it all the way and the engine would still run. But once, off idle, it would still run. As soon as I go, it would just die. I could take the screw right out. I ran the engine with no screw in there. So right then and there, there's an issue. And that was, I'm pretty darn sure, is because that passage was blocked and there was no fuel entering the idle passage. So I think I got that straightened out. I did have to order a new gasket because the old gasket was destroyed. So that just came in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blow this all out with air again, but we're going to go ahead and set up the float because I want to try to eliminate it barking fuel out of the front of the carburetor. Next up, the float. Now I am replacing the float
when I originally put this carburetor together to get the engine started, I just reused the original float that was in the carburetor. Now there's no apparent issue with it, but I had ordered a float. It just took forever to get here, so I did not put it in the carburetor. But today, we're going to put it in the carburetor. Setting the float is this measurement A, which is from the base of the lid to the bottom of the float. It has to be 1 and 5/32, plus or minus a 32nd is from what I've seen. Doesn't say it here. Dimension should be 1/32. Increase distance between the float body and machine surface. Use long nose pliers. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so that's where that is. Now, if I take where is this? All right, right here. So here's the other measurement. 1 and 5/32 plus or minus a 32nd. So one of the things I want to do is try to eliminate it from barking fuel out the front of the neck. So I went ahead and I set this float to 1 and 6/32 so that it actually kind of kicks in quicker to shut off the valve. A 32nd, I know, minuscule, but that's what we did. So I went ahead, set my gauge. Let's see if I can get it to show the number. Oh, all right. Set my little height gauge here to 1 and 5/32. That is you can see the little 32 at the end of my finger. So this is the 30 number 4, 5, and then the bigger number is 6. We're going to do this with one hand, so bear with me. With no gasket, we're going to go ahead and set up and show that that's about as nailed as possible. We'll come over to the other float. We'll do that. I think that's pretty much nailed as best that I can do, at least. So float is set. Let's go ahead and let's start putting it back together. Just before I put the carburetor back together, I pulled the tappet cover off. This stupid cork gasket was leaking oil anyways, so we'll get a new one of those just before I put it back together. But I thought I'd go ahead and check the valve clearance. Just make sure things are copacetic. We got 3 hours on this engine now, so not that it's broken in, but I want to make sure that it's held steady. 008 for intake, 016 for exhaust. So let me get my feeler gauges out. Let me get my feeler gauge out, and we'll see if it's somewhat close. All right, let's do the intake. We got 8 thousandths right there. I got it in the neutral position. Oops, sorry. Yeah, that is absolutely perfect. All right, and look at that, beautiful. All right, let's get the exhaust. 16. Okay, let's do the 16 in there. Oh, perfect. I mean, there's just a hair drag, and that is definitely a whoops. Yep, 16. All right, valve lash is perfect. We're just going to go ahead, clean that up, and get a gasket. Put that together. I think you've seen me put enough 5/16 bolts in. Not going to show you that. I went and looked online. I'm like, wait a minute, I can make this gasket. I mean, really, it's just a piece of cork. So I had some of this rubberized cork in my cabinet, so got the tappet cover, traced it out, took a leather cutter, made the 5/16 hole in the center so it fits fairly snugly, and then just gonna trim it out with the scissors right there, and this is gonna be a done deal, in theory. To get the carburetor back together, I just went over it one more time, made sure everything was good and clean. Just for verification purposes, I'm shining my flashlight in the main jet area. The bowl area is nice and clean, as you can tell. The main jet is clean and perfect. The air vent
is clean and ready, and the idle well, which was probably the issue with it not idling on this carburetor, is clean and ready to go. The other thing I did clean is, you see there's a small little brass, there it is right there, little slot. That's the idle nozzle. I did check that with brake cleaner to make sure it's clear and, you know, sprays. I also went through, this is where your idle jet goes. Made sure that's all good and clean, and this is a vent, and that's good and clean. Oh, obviously the where the float needle is, that's good and clean. Made sure I blew it all out with air. So, in theory, everything should be clean and ready to go. I did get a new gasket for this. The only thing I had to do is I did have to just nibble the gasket just right where the venturi sides are, so that way it sits nice and flat. I had to do that on the old, or the gasket that I had gotten from another kit. We already checked the float. That should be all set. I'm just gonna, when I'm putting it together, I'll give it one more little feeler, measurement just to make sure that's all set. But first up, let's go ahead and let's put the vent in. Now the vent is, this is the vent. Let's see if we can make sure. Oh yeah, yep, there you go. You can see right through it. So that thing is ready to go. That's good. And then this is the main jet. And if we just go up to the light, yep, you can see it's a little weird because of the camera, but we just turn it. Yep. Oh, yep. There's the 3 holes. There's the 2 holes. And then if we look up the center of it, whoops, let's see, right there. Oh, right there. It's good and clear. So, and I do have a new little gasket that goes with that. So I'm going to go ahead. That little vent goes right here. The gasket goes on, and then the main jet gets screwed in there. Now, I don't crank these things in super, super tight or anything like that. Just put them in, snug them down. The next one will be the idle jet, which goes right down inside here. Same thing. It's just got like a little screw hole, and oh, yeah, nice and clean. All right, so that's all good. So we'll put that back in. And then this is the main needle. I'll put the needle in and then set it to the manual. Same with the idle needle with the spring. And then that's it. Then there's the 4 screws. And this thing is lickety split. All done, in theory. And there it is, all installed. Gasket was installed. These are the 5/16 bolts, sorry. Torqued those to 10 foot-pounds. That should be sufficient. 1.5 turns as per the manual for the idle screw. I couldn't find a setting for the main jet, so I just set that to like 1.5 to 1 3/4 turns out. We'll have to mess around with that. I tightened up the fuel line to taste, made sure this is tight with the little gasket in place, tightened down my vent. Also the mount bolt was tightened in nice. The air cleaners all put back on and tightened down. Oh, set the governor. Wisconsin is probably the easiest engine manufacturer's governor. You set the throttle to full throttle. You take the governor arm, you push it all the way forward, and then you screw the little rod in until the hooked end just drops into the hole. Set your hitch pin. That's it. It's all set. Oh, and then I reset the idle plate, or the throttle plate with the idle screw. Essentially, I did it whoop, where is it? Where the heck is it? There it is, right there. Get it so the throttle is closed, the screw is just barely hitting the idle peg, and then you just turn it in 1.5 turns, and that just barely cracks the throttle plate open. So that's all set. Choke works. In theory, just let the fuel flow to the bowl, but one would say let's start the engine up. But of course, I I lost, or I can't find the drain plug for the carburetor, and I don't have one that fits. Classic. So I think the next video we'll get this thing running, we'll get it idling hopefully, and we'll actually take it on its maiden voyage under its own power. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Come back if you would be so kind, and let's see this 1955 Wheel Horse Senior go on the first ride of its life in probably 40, 50 years. When you start to see, when I have the video of the before and after, it's just going to be absolutely incredible, and we're getting really darn close to that. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a comment below, and as always, until we meet again, or until the next project, you have a great day.